So we'll discuss verse number 25. So we are on Canto 1, Chapter 4, Appearance of Sri Narad Muni, and verse number 25. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudire Nashta Prayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtaki. Verse number 25. Stri Shudra Vijabandhunam Trayina Shruti Gochara Karma Shreyasi Mudhanam Shreya Evam Bhaved Iha Iti Bharatam Akyanam Kripaya Munina Kritam. Synonyms: Stri, the woman class; Shudra, the laboring class; Dvijabandhunam, of the friends of the twice born; Trayi, the three sacrificial Vedas; Na Shruti Gochara, not allowed to be heard; Karma Shreyasi, in the successful execution of ritual duties; Mudhanam, of the less intelligent; Shreyaha, supreme benefit; Evam, thus; Bhavet, achieved; Iha, by this; Iti, thus thinking; Bharatam, the great Mahabharata; Akhyanam, historical facts; Kripaya, out of great mercy; Munina, by the Muni; Kritam, is completed. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada. Out of compassion, the great sage thought it wise that this would enable men to achieve the ultimate goal of life. Thus he compiled the great historical narration called Mahabharata for women, laborers, and friends of the twice born. Purport. Would anyone like to read the purport, the first para?
Yes, Prabhuji, shall I have a go?
Yes, please, Janaganya Mataji.
Hare Krishna. The friends of the twice born families are those who are born in the families of Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, and Vaishyas, or the spiritual cultured families, but who themselves are not equal to their forefathers. Such descendants are not recognized as such for want of purificatory achievements. The purificatory activities begin even before the birth of a child, and the seed-giving reformatory process is called Garbhadhana Samskara. One who has not undergone such Garbhadhana Samskara or spiritual family planning is not accepted as being of an actual twice-born family. The Garbhadhana Sanskara is followed by other purificatory processes, out of which the sacred thread ceremony is one. This is performed at the time of spiritual initiation. After this particular sanskara, one is rightly called twice born. One birth is calculated during the seed-giving samskara, and the second birth is calculated at the time of spiritual initiation. One who has been able to undergo such important sanskaras can be called the bona fide twice born.
Thank you so much,
Hare
Janaganya.
Krishna.
Okay. Anyone would like to read the second para and the third para together, small one?
Prabhuji, I can read it. If
Yes,
no
please.
one else. If the father and the mother do not undertake the process of spiritual family planning and simply beget children out of passion only, their children are called Dvija Bandhus. These Dvija Bandhus are certainly not as intelligent as the children of the regular twice-born families. The Dvija Bandhus are classified with the Shudras and the women class, who are by nature less intelligent. The Shudras and the women class do not have to undergo any sanskara save and accept the ceremony of marriage. The less intelligent classes of men, namely women, Shudra, and unqualified sons of the higher castes, are devoid of necessary qualifications to understand the purpose of the transcendental Vedas. For them, the Mahabharata was prepared. The purpose of the Mahabharata is to administer the purpose of the Vedas, and therefore within this Mahabharata, the summary Veda of Bhagavad Gita is placed. The less intelligent are more interested in stories than in philosophy, and therefore the philosophy of the Vedas in the form of the Bhagavad Gita is spoken by the Lord Shri Krishna, Vyasadeva, and Lord Krishna are both on the transcendental plane, and therefore they collaborated in doing good to the fallen souls of this age. The Bhagavad Gita is the essence of all Vedic knowledge. It is the first book of spiritual values, as the Upanishads are. The Vedanta philosophy is the subject matter for study for the spiritual graduates. Only the postgraduate spiritual student can enter into the spiritual or devotional service of the Lord. It is a great science, and the great professor is the Lord Himself in the form of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And persons who are empowered by Him can initiate themselves into the spiritual service of the Lord. This Bhagavad Gita is the essence of all Vedic knowledge. It is the first book of spiritual values, as the Upanishads are. The Bhagavad Gita is the essence of all Vedic knowledge.
Kaya चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं सागरजातं सहगणरघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपदां सहगणरघा श्रीविशाखान्वितां च नमो ॐ विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वतीदेवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे हे श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे हरे मुखं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुदीनकारणम् Hare Krishna. Yes, the verse is 3. Shudra Dvijabandhunam Trayina Shruti Gochara Karma Shreyasi Mudhanam Shreya Eva Bhaved Iha Iti Bharatam Akhyanam Kripaya Munina Kritam. Out of compassion, the great sage thought it wise. Out of compassion, the great sage thought it wise that this would enable men to achieve the ultimate goal of life. Thus, he compiled the great historical narration called Mahabharata for women, laborers, and friends of the twice born. So we are in the section of verses where Srila Vyasadeva is explained here that it's divided the Vedas and into four, and then he's given authority of the Vedas to his different disciples, and then he is then considered the compilation of Mahabharata for women, laborers, and friends of the twice born. Srila Prabhupada explains here the concept of samskaras. The friends of the twice born, are called Dvija Bandhus. So, so there are four varnas, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishyas, and Shudras. Of the four varnas, the three varnas, as it explained here, Brahmana, Kshatriya, and Vaishyas were previously given the sacred thread, which is the spiritual initiation, and was called the Upanayanam Samskara, or the Diksha, or like that. And they would then wear the thread and they would chant Gayatri. And the Shudra classes were not given because the situation, the occupational situation of them being not so favorable to that kind of lifestyle, because you take so many baths in a day and so many this and that, so much to do. But the thing is, even those who were given in the Kali Yuga, we already understood, and Srila Vyasadeva also referred to the situation of people in Kali Yuga. We got Manda Samanda Matayo, Manda Bhagya Padita. The less intelligent, I can relate to that. And Manda Sumanda Matayo, misdirected. Manda Bhagya is unfortunate. That's what is funny when people go to astrologer. I mean, it's not we should go to astrologers, I'm not saying that. But it's amazing. I was just thinking about it, like it's already declared in Kali Yuga, everyone is unfortunate. So we have a wrong start to begin with. Out of that, whatever good fortune we can get is only because of Srila Prabhupada and the devotees. Anyway, so these four types of defects, and there are other defects that was also mentioned, like the concept, like the tendency to make mistakes, tendency to cheat others, illusioned, and there's one more I can't remember. Yeah. So there's so many unfavorable situations for the spiritual life for anyone. So practically, even those who were born in the Brahmanas, what to speak of Kshatriyas and Vaishyas, in this time, in India, we know that a lot of different castes use their last name or surname, with some connotation, like someone knows the two Vedas or three Vedas. I don't want to name all the surnames. And I know a lot of people at work as well, they wear the thread, but when I ask them, what do you do? Just, apart from tying it to their ears, they don't do anything more than that. So practically, even if someone is given the thread, nobody in India, at least that I've been in touch, general mass of people, nobody is able to follow anything. They've never been trained. Not even their fathers seem to be having trained. Maybe the grandfathers like that, maybe 2 generations ago. Though the situation is only getting worse and obviously the memory is getting weaker and weaker thanks to already the effect of Kali Yuga, and then thanks to all the digital devices. I remember when I was a little boy, some of us friends used to compete to memorize telephone directory, but we didn't have a lot of other things to do, and we would just compete with each other. Okay, how many pages you can remember? Then we would test each other, check each other, and just say the name and the last postcode, and then ask the telephone number. And I remember I could remember, a few pages of it on the whole directory. But that was used to be the game in those days, memorize. But then now, if you ask me, I don't remember most of my family's phone numbers. Apart from I don't remember my daughter or son's phone number, because it's always handy to be used on the phone. And everything else, like we just Google it. We want to find anything, Google it. It's just, when Srila Prabhupada was writing all the purports, he was carrying all the commentaries of the acharyas, and he would, how amazingly he's just quoting so many places, like Mahabharata, different verses are quoted at different places, and at the right spot, and how he remembered everything. And obviously, he's a pure devotee of the Lord, so it's nothing for him to remember, it's already there with him. But just an example, like how people used to have amazing memory in the past, whereas the technology goes more and more, the memory side is getting weaker and weaker, and because we've never used that muscle, even technically speaking, that much. And now we are getting into the world of artificial intelligence, machine learning. So everything that we do gets recorded. Our decisions are, recorded, and then the machine learning needs a lot of data. There's data science to figure out what people in general would think, what will be their decision making, how they make decisions in particular situational scenarios. We already have auto-driving cars, so just sit back and relax, and the car will take you. But apart from that, probably is lesser of artificial intelligence. But apart from that, there's so many other things being done. So the memory is replaced by machines. The intelligence seems to be more transformed into the machines. So the machine can do what men can do. Basically, some bit of controversial theories there, but basically, dumbing is a term called something like that. Say dumbing the population, and that something like that. So, which is primarily the lesser the decision people make, lesser their ability to discriminate. The intelligence, it goes further and further. So everything just rely on someone or something to tell you what to do next. Education system, likewise, being done. Everything on digital. I don't know whether right or wrong, but this is how the situation is. So it is very difficult. So everyone practically is in that situation of, Dvija Bandhus, and then, and also there is, in Kali Yuga, practically everyone is born Shudra. In any way, Janma Jayate Shudra, and that is what Prabhupada quotes in many places. So by birth, everyone is a Shudra. So everyone is practically in the same boat, as Prabhupada has mentioned many lectures. And then the process of purification, which is cleansing or purification, is what is samskaras. Samskara is technically speaking is a process of purification. I was going through the how do you say, the Veda base, sorry. to see Prabhupada's, different purports about the samskaras. And what I could find was there were a lot of mention of Garbhadhan samskara and some obviously mention of the initiation, spiritual initiation, or Upanayanam samskara. There was some reference to that. But significant references were to Garbhadhan samskara because that's the root. Even before a child is conceived, Garbhadhan samskara has to be followed as per the Vedic guidelines. And practically speaking, today, nobody, at least until this was introduced, but Prabhupada is introducing all the books, and devotees are now getting to understand these Vedic samskara. But India, which was supposed to be the place of this Vedic science, people practically living, but nobody practically was aware of these types of samskaras for last, at least I know, in my generation. And so that's practically, it just disappeared. And it is the most important. With the Garbhadana Sanskara, there is whole process that Prabhupada is given in many different places for us to also follow devotees, like, what should be the mood, chant at least 50 rounds before we night, we do the particular, date and time and month, and, it's a whole detailed process that is being given. And so the point is, unless the seed is correct, unless it's done with the correct mood, unless people have understood the purpose of union, purpose of progeny, then what to speak of what will be the future. So if the seed is not correct, if the right soul is not invited, then where is the chance of any spiritual progress? And that spiritual Garbhadhan Sanskara automatically becomes spiritual family planning, as Prabhupada calls it, amazing spiritual family planning. So that spiritual family planning is not followed, then practically everyone is just twice born. And the sacred thread ceremony is the second one, which is still done, is because some of the other samskaras, there are Prabhupada mentioned somewhere 10 samskaras, and there are some other places there are 16 samskaras. So there's various samskara, but primarily, the Garbhadhan samskara, and we've seen some, now lots of devotees, families, performance, and the important samskaras, Simantanayana samskaras, Jatakarma samskaras. Then there is Namakran, giving the name at the time of birth, there is samskara. And then there is obviously Vivaha samskara, which is the marriage. That is also a purification process. And before that, Upanayanam and Vedaram, like study of education, the Vedas, there's no mention of, of these other samskaras in Srila Prabhupada's teaching. But now we know, what has been introduced. Prabhupada has mentioned at various places and to his disciples that just his books, Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, Chaitanya Charitamrita, particularly Srimad Bhagavatam, is sufficient for education of a child. And we have some wonderful examples in our institute who have followed this study of Srimad Bhagavatam from the young age. And we know about two brothers, very famous, who at a very young age, they did their education, and they were always best in their classes, and they did so very early. They could finish the graduation, and they could even do the post-graduation. Even the youngest PhD, I believe, from Oxford, the two brothers have done. They set the right example, and the many other devotees are following that. So Srila Prabhupada's books has given us everything that we need in terms of that. So that's just about the first paragraph. And if the father, mother do not undertake the process of spiritual family planning, simply beget children out of passion only, their children is called Vidya-bandhus. So that's what I was saying. Most of the population in today's time is Vidya-bandhus. So this Mahabharata was compiled by Srila Vyasadeva, considering the situation of the Kali Yuga, of the people of Kali Yuga. And so how does Mahabharata help? So we will discuss in a little bit. So these Vijayabandhus are certainly not as intelligent as the children of regular twice born families. That's seems a very important process. And the Vijayabandhus are classified with Shudras and women class, who are by nature less intelligent. Now, this is a very, in a way, controversial topic, but I think there are lots of discussions, classes, and podcasts have been done on this subject. There was one podcast I would suggest, if someone is interested in more understanding this concept, is done by this devotee in New York with Garuda Prabhu. This is the podcast. Does anyone know that? I forgot his name. I'll put in a text once I remember it. It's amazing podcast, and Garuda Prabhu is very in detail explained what is really referred here. Now, how the differentiation is made. So, what is the context of this intelligent when it's called intelligent? Because we see a lot of intelligent people there out there, creating so much technologies and women, doing so much in the education. They're so much far ahead, even of men in that sense, and it's very difficult to understand without understanding the context that this is only specific in relation to understanding of the Vedas and the high philosophical discussions or the principles. The Shuddha Vimukha do not have to undergo any samskara save except this ceremony of marriage. The less intelligent class of men, namely women, Shuddha and qualified sons of higher caste, are devoid of necessary qualification to understand the purpose of transcendental Vedas. This is what is the context.
No.
Sorry about that. For them, the Mahabharata was prepared. So Mahabharata, Srila Prabhupada, I've heard from some of his disciples that he wanted to, he expressed a desire to actually translate Mahabharata as well. He said that the next book that he wanted to do translation was Mahabharata. Mahabharata is roughly 100,000 verses, 96,000, 100,000 verses. Bhagavad Gita is 700 verses, Bhagavatam is 18,000, this is roughly 100,000. So that's, you can imagine the size of this now. This, I think, the biggest ever book that's in circulation at the moment. No other book in any other stream has ever been published. So this is the biggest book and has so much in there, thousands and thousands of stories, and establishing the dharma, kama, moksha, the four goals of the human life. Giving various examples. There are so many stories. As we read Mahabharata, I've been reading off and on, but not read the whole thing. But every principle of dharma is explained with reference to a historical fact. So Mahabharata is a historical fact, and that goes for thousands of years in the past. So the purpose of the Mahabharata is to administer the purpose of the Vedas, and therefore within this Mahabharata, summary Veda of Bhagavad Gita is placed. Bhagavad Gita is placed within the Bhishma Parva, which is just at the time of beginning of the Mahabharata war. We know that Bhagavad Gita was spoken. So the less intelligent are more interested in stories than in philosophy, and therefore the philosophy of the Vedas in the form of Bhagavad Gita is spoken by Lord Shri Krishna. So it's this beautiful statement that Vyasadeva and Lord Krishna are both on the transcendental plane, and therefore they collaborated in doing good to the fallen souls of the sage. So this concept of compassion, out of compassion, this is what it is. Out of compassion, the Lord himself, Lord Krishna, and his incarnation, Vyasadeva, together collaborated in doing good to the fallen souls of the sage. So packing Bhagavad Gita within Mahabharata. So when people read Mahabharata, the mind is pacified. The Rajas and Tamas, the passion and ignorance, is trained gradually into the goodness. So people get the understanding of Dharma, Artha, Kama in that direction, and the ultimate purpose of Mahabharata is the moksha. The Bhagavad Gita is the essence of all Vedic knowledge. It is the first book of spiritual values, as the Upanishads are. The Vedanta philosophy is the subject matter of study by the spiritual graduates. Only the postgraduate spiritual student can enter into the spiritual or devotional service of the Lord. So this is the status of bhakti. The postgraduate spiritual student can only do the understanding or can enter into the spiritual devotional service. So this is how bhakti is even higher than that. It's established by our own Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. A great professor. So a great professor is the Lord himself in the form of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This word, professor, has been used previously also, like Kaila Rishi is the professor of the Rig Veda, like that is mentioned previously. And the persons who are empowered by him can initiate others in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. So he is our Srila Prabhupada, out of compassion for the fallen souls, in the same line, in the same parampara. Srila Prabhupada, travels to the West, understanding, and as per his instruction from his own spiritual master, understanding the situation of the people of Kali Yuga, and brings the whole of this Vedic life into the West, and through the West is coming back into India so much. And out of compassion, he just, it's inconceivable in 10 years' time how much he is established. And now we are expanding. This compassion of Srila Prabhupada is so much that the whole world is getting benefited. So that is the whole driving force. So Mahabharata was that. So Vedas very difficult to understand for people in general. Practically nobody can follow. So that's what the basic reason was, to divide the Vedas into 4, and so that it is it's categorized as is easily understood, and then owned by different spiritualists or different leaders or his disciples. So then the Mahabharata is obviously called the 5th Veda. The concept we discussed a little bit, Janmana Jayate Shudra. So everyone by birth is Shudra. But samskara bhaved dvijaya. But only by samskara, by the purificatory process, someone can become a dvija. This purification process we have discussed a little bit in the second chapter as well. And Bhagavad Gita also, there is the same similar verse, Mam hi patra pasitya, yepi shiv papayonayas, triyo vaisya tatha shudras, tepi yanti param gatim. Yeah. Mam hi patra, those who take my shelter, even if they are, papa yone, like, let's say the papa yone, like, is of lower birth, or the, and this Striya Vaishyas Tatha Shudras Tepi Yante. So anyone can take, my shelter, Krishna says. And Prabhupada has given beautiful purport of in the same verse. And then there is also the reference to similar in the second canto, 4th chapter. And this is the prayers of Shukdev Goswami. So when Parikshit Maharaj asks about the the reason for creation and the history of, the details about creation, and Lord, appearing as the Guna avatars and different aspects of Sarga, which is the creation of Sarga and secondary creation. Shukdev Goswami, before answering the question, he just speaks beautiful prayers. And within one of the prayers, he just recites this. Really, I can share this. Sorry. This is sorry, give me one moment. Yeah, here it is. Kirat Hunnandhra Pulinda Pulkasha Avir Shumba Yavana Kasadaya Yene Che Papa Yadapa Shaya Sudhyanti Tasmai Prabhu Vishnave Namaha. It says Kirat Huna Kirat Huna Andhra Pulinda Pulkasha Abhira Shumba Yavana, members of the Khasa races and even others addicted to sinful acts can be purified, the same concept, purified by taking shelter of the devotees of the Lord. Due to his being the supreme power, I beg to offer my respectful obeisance unto him. This is Shukdev Goswami speaking, and in his prayers, before he's going to explain the history of creation, the reason for creation, how it all happened, and one of his prayers, glorifying the Lord, saying that just by remembering, by taking shelter of the devotees of the Lord, even the lower of the lowest, like they don't even fall within the Shudra as per the the Vedic understanding. So and then the purport obviously goes about explaining different and this all mentioned in Mahabharata. If you see, the Mahabharata is so many places mentioned here, like a province of Kirat is a province of old Bharatvarsha mentioned in the Bhishma Parva of Mahabharata. Generally, Kiratas are known as the aboriginal tribes of India. And in modern days, the Santal Parganas in Bihar and Chota Nagpur might comprise the old province. So many. There's Huna, sorry. Area of East Germany in part of Russia is Huna. And there is, reference of Vishnu temple in Russia and Siberia as well up there in the Russian places. So the point is, anyone can take. So everyone is practically disqualified, but anyone can be purified. Anyone can take shelter of the devotees of the Lord, and they get purification. So the same samskara process is now being offered, under the shelter of Srila Prabhupada, to so many thousands of devotees getting purified, and the Brahman initiation can happen anytime. Like in the old days, it used to be at a young age, 5, 6 year old or 8-year-old, they would get the Dopanayanam, they get the thread, and then they go to the Gurukul to learn scriptures. But I don't think I was sharing the screen. Sorry. It's not sharing. And this is the verse, sorry, I was quoting. Kirat Hona Andhra Pulinda Pulkasha. This is 2:4:18. That's the so Mahabharata, has, as we were saying, that's got 18 different parvas, and this Bhishma Parva is where the Bhagavad Gita is there, but like Adi Parva is so all the history of where it started. What we have seen, there's a serial also Mahabharata, and 2 times it's been produced in India. But the Mahabharata has a lot more than that. So there is 18 parvas, and Adi Parva, Sabha Parva, Vana Parva is all the Pandavas into the forest, and then the Virat Parva, where the year of incognito, like that. So I don't think there's any point in quoting all the Parvas, but the thing is there's so many in them. And Mahabharata, so Prabhupada has quoted various verses from Mahabharata, Nakshawara Shiryasya Matam Bhinnam, like very often Prabhupada used to say that about the Muni. So unless a Muni has his different opinion, angle of vision, he can't be called a Muni, like that. There are so many examples quoted. And obviously Mahabharata had the Bhagavad Gita, which is the essence of all the Upanishads. Sarva Upanishado Gavo, Dugda Gopala Nandana Partho Vas. Partho Vatsa Sudhir Bhokta Dugdam Gita Mritam Mahat. So all the Upanishads are like a cow, and the milker of the cow is Lord Shri Krishna, the son of Nanda. Arjuna is the calf, beautiful nectar of the Gita is the milk, and the fortunate devotees of fine theistic intellect are the drinkers and enjoy that milk, like that. So, yeah. So what we take away from this verse is really the purification for us, in today's time is already being arranged. And as we progress down, this is the same chapter, that Vyasadeva is going to feel despondent after this, because he's created everything, for the men, for the all the other classes, but since he has not done anything for the pleasure of the devotees of the Lord and the Lord himself, he would feel despondent. So that's all I have today. I don't know if we can discuss anything. Any questions or any point of discussion we can have?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dhanava Pranams of Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much for a wonderful class, Prabhuji. Perhaps you should elaborate also on how Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj and Srila Prabhupada also endorsed that for the Sudra class of men, that we should be following the Pancharatrika system. Perhaps you can just touch a little bit on that.
Please explain.
I'd rather you did it, Prabhuji.
It will be nice if you speak.
I don't have enough knowledge to speak of these things, Prabhuji. I'm fallen soul, just picking up bits and pieces here and there for.
It will be nice if you want to share something, though.
Well, I think Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj established very firmly that in the age of Kali, we are all Sudras, and as Sudras, we need a system to follow which is suitably devotional rather than following anything in the Karma Kanda sections or any other sections of the Vedas. So they effectively established the process of worship and the Vedic rituals that we should be following in, because there are many rituals throughout the whole Vedas. And the system that we should be following as devotees is established within the Pancharatrika system of worship. So there are rules and regulations and processes that we're supposed to follow. And this particular system establishes the devotional elements for us to follow as Sudras, because we can't follow Brahminical ones or higher, we're not qualified enough to follow the higher level processes. So that system establishes all the process and the rites and the ceremonies and the rituals that we should be following as devotees. That's what I want to do, wanted you to establish.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Yes, I was saying that the second chapter, like of the first canto. So many beautiful verses like Dharma Projita Kaita Vatra. The Dharma Projita Kaita. So Kaita Dharma is rejected by, in Srimad Bhagavatam pretty much. At the beginning of the Bhagavatam is rejecting, Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, all the four things. So, and then Mahaprabhu has given us the fifth goal of human life, which is Prema Pumartha Mahan, which is establishing the highest goal of Krishna Prem. And, the Vasudev Katharuchi. So there is the other thing that is mentioned is various times in the second chapter about the Vasudev Katha, the hearing of the pastimes of the Lord is the purification process. And unless, the verse which says, Na utpadiyet yadi ratim shama eva hi kevalam dharma samstapana. So what is that? Sorry. So this is dharma svanasitam pumsam. So even if people perform the dharma in the best way, but unless, the ruchi, the interest is established in hearing the katha of Sri Krishna, Vishwaksena kathas, it's just a hard labor, just a hard work, without any proper fruits. And then again, he explains, about the highest dharma is a the essence of all scriptures is explains that even if we understood all the scriptures, but the ultimate goal is to what is to please the senses, like of the Lord. Some siddhi haritoshanam. Some siddhi haritoshanam. So the siddhi, some siddhi is in satisfying the Lord's senses, like that. So it's all, Bhagavatam is Prabhuji is explaining about the Pancharatri and also called like Bhagavad Dharma is the highest. So Srila Prabhupada is like, when we see this women and Shudra and all that, and in ISKCON we have so many deity worships going on significantly. Most of the deity service is being done by Mataji so wonderfully. Srila Prabhupada has established what Srila Prabhupada is quoting, and we can see the example, like there is no difference. Everyone is doing the service, whether someone is born, wherever you're born, it's just that the process has been given to us so wonderfully by Srila Prabhupada and Bhaktisiddhanta and in the whole parampara that, we don't even relate to this. We don't even need to read Mahabharata. We got the already the best. Actually, I once went to live in Udupi for more than a month, and I think I mentioned before, I befriended one of the there are 8 matas who look after the Udupi Krishna deities at different times. They take turns and they worship the deity. They're very beautiful Krishna deity there. Small. So I made friendship with one of the matas, sort of a, it's not the head priest, but in the Acharya family, they have Acharyas who teach. And I would practically go to him every day, spend half an hour, 1 hour, just, discussing various things. And I was just trying to understand what he or they have been studying. So they study all the time, detailed understanding of Mahabharata, all the 18 Puranas, the Upanishads. They just study all the time. That much, how much they study. And then one day he said, and then obviously he would ask me, what do you do? So what process we follow, what is our philosophy that has been given to us. And he knew about Srila Prabhupada and most of the philosophy, but he told me something very interesting. He said to me that, we are going through so much, so much study. He was practically studying 12 hours a day. And he's saying, but, Srila Prabhupada, what he has given you is the highest straight away, in one sense. Like, that is the highest. Prema Pumartha Mahan is the highest, and Prabhupada is just, and Mahaprabhu is distributed this like to anyone and everyone, not considering the place, the circumstance, the eligibility, non-eligibility, whatever it is, everyone has been given that, the highest goal of life. So, so we have so much. Thank you, Suresh Prabhu, for raising that. Any other so much actually in this. Because we discussed like what I made some point, but not sure whether we can discuss all the different aspects of the the Vedas and Vedangas, and it doesn't even it does not even needed for us. It's good to know what are the different Vedas and different Vedangas and all the Saddarshan of the six philosophies, and we can study all those. It's very nice to study, but it's not necessarily we just need Srimad Bhagavatam and it's sufficient for us like that. So, thank you. Actually, Mahabharata also has a very detailed story of the appearance of the birth of Srila Vyasadeva in a very detailed way. It will take probably half an hour to just study that. And also Parashar Rishi, in what circumstance Vyasadeva was born, and how Satyavati became what she was. Like the whole story, there's so many references there. And there is other stories as well, like the establishing the every principle, like why we should be, even in terms of the daily rituals that we're supposed to do, offering the puja to Deva, Rishi, and Pitri, and all those is given in us, and there are so many pastimes related to that. If someone studies Mahabharata, all the 100,000 verses and all the different stories, I read a few stories, and I was thinking that actually does establish the principle of why we should be for example, grateful to our forefathers or grateful to the devas, and express of gratitude. So brings that concept of dharma, and in the dharmic perspective, it explains the artha and karma, how it should be performed, how we should be satisfying the desires that we have, or the artha, or the occupation that we want to have, or we want to make an economical progress, how it should all be done with keeping dharma as the highest principle. So Mahabharata does explain all that. It's nice to read. It is a lot. Thank you for that. We want to study Srimad Bhagavatam. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. Sorry, I didn't probably cover a lot today. It was so much I probably got. It takes hours and hours to discuss this Mahabharata. There's so much. There are so many classes. Actually, I would suggest, if someone is interested in hearing about the Mahabharata classes, you can look for Govinda Prabhu's and Shubha Vilas Prabhu's. I've heard many of those classes. They're really nice, amazing, and very detailed analysis of all the Mahabharata stories and how we can apply those principles in life. There are like maybe 200 hours of lectures by these devotees up on the YouTube. I would suggest we hear that. And thank you so much for tolerating me tonight. And
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, sorry to disturb you. Thank you so much for your class. It's always very uplifting and very nice, and you say it in a very practical and down to earth way, so that every layman like me, common man, can understand. So I always feel very nice in your class. Thank you very much. I just wanted to ask you, you said there is a podcast. Can you please send the link about that podcast?
Yeah, I'll send you right now. It's beautiful, actually. You should hear that. It's beautiful. It's Karla Prabhu, and just stay. I think just stay there. I don't think I can post afterwards. I will look for it right now, and you can hear that. It's very deep inside there, and it does actually answer all the questions. I had this question many times, and it's a podcast of 30 minutes. Sorry, won't be long. Yeah, the late morning program in Namaras podcast. So I will just
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
late morning podcast with Namaras, and you can look on the YouTube and type in. He's done many podcasts. You can type for Garuda Prabhu. Yeah. So there is, I think there will be a couple of them, but one is specifically on this topic that that you can listen and just clarify all the answers. Thank you.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much. Hare Krishna devotees, thank you so much. And I pray that everyone have a great weekend and full of Krishna consciousness and lots of Srimad Bhagavatam Katha, Krishna Katha. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you for
Thank
the
you,
class.
Prabhuji.
Thank you for the class.
Thank you. Hari Hari. Hari Bol.
Very kind of you.
Hare Prabhu. Thank you.